And welcome back to Group Therapy. I am here. First, I should probably identify myself. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. I am here with my editor cohorts, and we're talking about everything that's going on in Livingston Parish. And I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. And I believe I started on my left last time, so I'm going to start on my right.
You're right. We're facing each other. Okay, that's me. Well, this is David Gray. David Gray, lifestyle editor, news reporter with the Livingston Parish News.
Hey, this is Rob DeArmond. I'm a sports editor here at the Livingston Parish News.
And I've already introduced myself. So this time, we are going to start. I'm going to bounce around just a little bit. But I do want to start with some sports because we did have some kids go to state powerlifting meet and place very well, actually. So, Rob, take that away for us.
The big thing going into it was that if you guys remember correctly, the COVID shutdown hit right before these athletes were able to do anything at the state meet, and they wound up losing the state meet totally. So, just to be able to have a chance to go to the state meet was a big deal this year. It doesn't sound like a whole lot, but for the coaches and the athletes involved, just getting there was part of the deal. We'll go to, I guess, Division 5, which is the smaller schools. Holden winds up on the girls' side. I think I mentioned it last week, maybe, that they took the full complement of 11 athletes to the state meet. And talking to Coach David White, they were able to get points from each one of those athletes, and they finished third at the state meet. They had three athletes with state championships. 2 were runners-up and 2 in third place. I guess Mary Woods won the 198-pound class from Holden. Kayla Davis took the 220-pound championship, and Gabrielle Sharp won the super heavyweight class. So that's and I think most of them are coming back. So
Right.
They're trying to lay a foundation there. They took 2 guys with them. Coach White said the biggest thing for them right now is trying to get to a point where they can take 11 girls and 11 boys. And one of his main goals right now is to kind of build that boys program a little bit more.
Well, and you got to start somewhere, and it sounds like they have a good base with both sides.
Right.
So
Exactly.
now, anybody else go?
Yeah, and for the bigger schools, the biggest performance I think for that to come out of there was Denham Springs High. The Reagan Bosco became the first athlete ever to podium for the Denham Springs powerlifting program at the state meet. And she did it with 1,015 pounds, which went over the 1,000 point barrier there. And that was in the 220-pound class. She wins the championship there. That was kind of the highlight for Denham Springs. Also had a couple Doyle athletes. This was their first foray into powerlifting this season. Had a couple. They performed well too.
So a lot of good powerlifting news this year, but I wanted to start off with that because it was important because last year they didn't, and to clarify your point earlier, last year no state meet for powerlifting.
Right.
It just didn't happen. So this year these kids get to compete. So jumping back over to Mr. Gray, we kind of talked about being able to have a state meet this year because of sort of the progress with COVID. We're getting progress with vaccinations too.
Yes.
Another recent expansion got a lot of people that are now eligible.
Yeah, I mean, they don't, they don't have the exact figures of how many people are eligible with the latest expansion that started on Monday, March 22nd, but one would have to assume it's the most of adults, if not the majority of adults. The governor last week announced that because the federal government is promising an increase in shipments and vaccine doses over the next few weeks. So Governor Edwards and his staff decided to expand the pool of eligibility to now include all essential workers. So now any adult that also works, that is an essential worker, is now eligible for a vaccine. Governor Edwards said that was going to make it available, just a guess, 10 to tens of thousands of people. And kind of the announcement came at around the time that Louisiana passed 10,000 total deaths from COVID, which just, kind of just a startling figure to know that in the last year, I mean, 10,000 people have died. Now, some of those are confirmed. 9,200 of those or so are confirmed, and the rest are, probable deaths. But I mean, 10,000 deaths from COVID, and so it was good to get the vaccines to get those eligible expanded because just less deaths hopefully are on the horizon with the more people that are getting vaccinated.
And speaking of vaccinations, we talked last week about how the school system was providing vaccination clinics and that kind of thing. The school system also had a visitor from the state, kind of a big deal. Based on some of the people we've talked to, maybe the first time a state superintendent has ever taken that in-depth of a tour of Livingston Parish facilities. And, one of the quotes you used to title it, which I thought was very good, was y'all made the right decisions with regard to COVID. So tell us a little bit about his visit.
Yes, Superintendent Cade Brumley, who was, he's still not even a year into the post, but he came and visited Livingston Parish schools last week. Was based off an invite from Representative Buddy Mincy, who, as you remember, he was a member of the school board for around a dozen years, a former school board president, very involved with the local school system here and, education at large. And he invited Mr. Brumley here or I should say Dr. Brumley here to tour some of the schools, and he got a really good glimpse of sort of the career and technical training that goes on in Livingston Parish schools. And something I didn't know that will be another story down the line is, of all the districts in the state, Livingston Parish spends more money on technical and career training than any other school district, which I thought that was a very, very interesting thing to show that the local school district is trying to, yes, it's great to have, for all the ACT scores, test scores, all that stuff is great, but there also needs to be that sort of balance between giving these students, while they're in high school, real life skills. And that was something that Mr. Brum or Dr. Brum was able to see. He toured the Denham Springs STEM and Robotics Center, which opened last school year. And he also toured Walker High, which, is, still it looks like a small college now with all the renovations that happened there over the last several years. So he got he saw the best. But one thing Mr. Mincy said was, if you had gone to any of our schools, you would see, you would see the same type of stuff. And then, like I said, that the fact that Livingston Parish puts more into that type of curriculum than any other school district just kind of shows that, how big of a focus it is here.
Yeah. And, I kind of want to bring something up about what you said about Walker, because it's very true at Live Oak, and it's starting to become truer in the Denham Springs area, but it's important in context. There is a renewal coming up for millage. They're looking to build some athletic facilities on campus. But that millage before had been used to build schools to increase capacity. They had some problems in the Juban area. So this millage was used to build Juban Park Junior High and Juban Park Elementary. It's very important to note that, the school system and really the people, because they're paying the millage, are investing back in the system. And so a lot of good things happening in this area. Speaking about good things, a general partner with the school system is the Livingston Parish Library, and their head, who all three of us know, Giovanni Tyrov, was recently promoted or received the votes to get into the
Louisiana Library Association. He is now the treasurer.
Right.
3-year term.
What I was looking for was the executive board. So he's in an executive position at the Louisiana Library Association. So tell us a little bit about that.
He was just the LLA just announced that last week. They announced that Mr. Giovanni was going to be serving a 3-year term that I believe ends in June 2024, something like that. But Giovanni, he's been it's around 10 years now that he's been the director of the Livingston Parish Library, and he's done a lot of great things at the library, expanding the patronage. Has done more to update and make the library system more modern. He got rid of library fines a couple years ago. That was, that's a push that libraries across the country are, starting to do, because it just encourages more people to get engaged and involved with their local library. First, I remember when I was younger, I had a library fine. I never went back to the library. So, that's just kind of, that's sort of that modern approach that library systems are doing. He was, the Livingston Parish Library was one of the first in the state to do that. That was under Giovanni. He's just done a lot, and, I'm full confidence that he'll be able to serve that board. He'll serve well in his capacities on that board.
And last but certainly not least, when you're talking about sort of community staples, you took the time and went up to Watson last week, I believe, and got to sit down with the family of a lady who had become a very much a community staple. Her restaurant had become a place for people to sit from all walks of life, because they had that food that spans, it knows no boundaries.
Pizza.
No yeah, it's pizza.
Pizza,
I mean, pizza's great. So tell us a little bit about Miss Cloud and what you learned.
Yeah, Miss Wanda Cloud is, and the thing that really drew me to the story is, before COVID, I spent a lot of times in the schools, just going to schools at events, and a lot of times at events they'll order pizza. So anytime I'd go to Watson schools, I would always see pizza boxes that said the pizza place. I mean, I never saw where the place was. I just knew of the pizza place. And then, so I see on Facebook one day that the pizza place announced that their owner had passed, Miss Wanda Cloud. She opened it along with her partner 36 years ago along Highway 16. It has been in that same spot since then. Back then it was one of only, 2 or 3 restaurants. And I mean, now you could just see, take a drive down that area, there's 3 or 4 in one corner, I mean, the area's just exploded in the last, several years. And Miss Wanda I talked to her son and her daughter-in-law who, they kind of run the restaurant now. And yeah, the pizza place, I mean, that was an important place to her. She made sure to tell them, don't y'all dare close this restaurant, after I'm gone. And it was, but it was just, I guess what also struck me was just how, talking to her son, was how sudden the death was, because it was a COVID death. She tested positive on I believe 10 days before she passed, and it was just just a very abrupt. And he said she had some health, a few health issues, but mostly a healthy woman in her 70s, and it just kind of showed just how fast COVID can take some people. And that was one of the things that sort of stood out. And also that she loved LSU. She was a huge LSU fan. She told for her service, her instructions were everyone has to wear LSU colors. She didn't want people wearing black. She basically wanted it to be a tailgate. So it was just a very colorful woman who did a lot for the community here.
And well, you use the word right there at the end, very community oriented, right? And that's what made it so inviting. And pizza, as we said.
And I ordered one at the end of the interview. I told him, okay, I'm going to order one. And I took it home, and I was like, all right, I'll just eat one slice. It was about 3:00 in that window between lunch and dinner where you really don't want to eat, but then you decide to because, hey, I'm a little hungry. So I took one slice, and then I ate I got an extra large. My girlfriend had 2 slices. I ate the other like 8 or 9, like within 30, 45 minutes, and it was good pizza. I'll say that.
It is good pizza.
It was great pizza.
Yeah.
That was the first time I ever had
Absolutely.
it, so it was great.
So please remember, Miss Cloud, if you're even if you're just part of the Livingston Parish community, stop by the pizza place, get yourself a slice or an extra large pizza.
Extra large.
And only give your girlfriend 2 slices and eat the rest. Jumping back over to Rob, because we want to stay in the Watson area. Something interesting, Live Oak High School brought in Coach Jesse Cassard, looking for some elevated performance from baseball. They also, as a community, invested, and they used that millage money to build a new baseball and softball complex behind their football field. Great complex, very beautiful.
I was going to say, if you haven't been out there, you kind of owe it to yourself. If you're a fan, go take a look at it. It's unbelievable out there. And
so you got a call, or maybe you noticed it and called him. But right now, Live Oak High School baseball, with a couple of wins not yet recorded on Max Preps, is ranked 4th nationally.
4th nationally. I just opened it up, and I literally just got off the phone with Coach Cassard right before we started this podcast. Saw it yesterday. One poll had them 9th, one poll had them 4th. The most up to date one now, they're 4th in the nation. And Coach Cassard said that could be a little bit higher because they're missing a couple wins on Max Preps. But take this into consideration. The number 1 school in the nation is Barb from Lake Charles on this poll. Live Oak is 4, and Sam Houston from Lake Charles is 5. So that's 3 schools from Louisiana in the top 5. And just in talking to Coach Cassard, it's one of those things where everything's kind of working right for them now in terms of what they're doing. And the other part is that they got a couple guys maybe that they were expecting some bigger things from, and they're just now starting to come around, which means they're getting production from guys maybe they weren't expecting to, which is, and like I told him, I said, that's baseball. That happens on occasion. And like he said, that's a sign of a good team. He also said that they're ranked nationally, but that's not a state championship, if that makes sense. You're happy to be ranked, you're happy to be up there, but they've got other goals and they want to get that state championship.
So, yeah, I mean, it's important to note, that kind of like with maybe with LSU baseball, you like to make some of those comparisons. Started off ranked. Seasons happen. Things happen.
You guys saw what happened this weekend.
So it's important, to note. I like what Coach Cassard had to say. That's great, but we even have an in-state team that we might end up having to play that's ranked higher than us. So we've got to stay tight and we got to play week in, week out.
And it's one of the and you've also got district coming up here too. So and you guys know, y'all well know, you've seen these district matchups go, and things can happen.
Sure.
So you don't put the cart before the horse, as they say, and I think that's where they're at. He said the kids right now are really staying humble with what they do, and they're focused on that main goal.
So lots to look at in the Watson area in terms of baseball. If you're ever looking for updates on scores and what's going on with baseball, football, baseball, softball, and track, and of course the parish meet's coming up here in a couple of weeks.
Sure is.
We'll be at Walker High. Please check us out. Check Rob out. Follow him on Twitter or go to www.livingstonparishnews.com/sports. Finally, last but certainly not least, we're going to jump over to David with lifestyle news. It's actually, things are starting to kind of kick back off.
Yeah, slowly, but it's been a year. But yes, things are starting to return. It's a welcome surprise.
So first, first and foremost, let's start with a very interesting story. Actually, this one isn't necessarily an event as much as it is a celebration of, a deputy going above and beyond the line of duty to save a woman's life. So tell us a little bit about this situation, how it came up for you.
Yeah.
And might brag on you a little bit for the work you did on the video.
No, Deputy Jason Hunt, he's a 10-year veteran of the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office. He's a DARE officer. I've actually, run into him a bunch, when I'm at schools covering events and that sort of thing. He's, a lot of times he's there, just really nice man, and loves his job. That's one thing I've, always noticed about him is he truly loves his job. And this event or this scenario actually happened last May, but because of COVID, the sheriff's office, had to wait to be able to recognize their deputies for, individual acts of heroism, that sort of thing. Well, last May 2020, Deputy Hunt was driving. He was actually an hour late after his shift had ended, and had just got a dispatch that there was a wreck and they needed someone to go check it. He was the closest person there, so he decided to go check it. He said, I'll just go check it and then, wait for someone else to come and then I'll go home. When he pulls up, he sees a car engulfed in flames, and he spends the next, 10 minutes trying to get this woman out. A woman had struck a pine tree in the middle of the night and less than a mile from her home also, which, that was the other, just ironic part, just down the road from her house, hit a pine tree. The car started leaking. She had serious injuries. I mean, nothing that was life-threatening, but, she was knocked unconscious, from the impact, and was, would have most likely died had Deputy Hunt not been there in time to break open a window and pull her out. And he spent, several minutes trying to break open that window. And we have a video of that the sheriff's office granted us permission to use that shows him, just trying for, 5 or so minutes, just beating these windows any way he could, and putting out the flames. And then when he opens one window, it gives more oxygen to the fire, and then the fire erupts some more. So I mean, it was just a just frightening situation to be in. I couldn't imagine. I feel like I would freeze. I mean, hopefully I wouldn't, but I can't imagine being in a situation like that. And then eventually shows him rescuing the woman, pulling her out. And he was recognized last week. The woman's husband was there to also, show his appreciation for what Mr. Hunt did. And he said he took pictures of the car the next day, saw how badly the car was burned, and his only thought was, there's no way someone would have survived this. So I mean, just a heroic action by Deputy Hunt.
Yeah, and Mr. Gray over here fought very hard with that video that was provided by the sheriff's office, and eventually was able to persevere and pull through and conquer. Yes. And found you guys. You'll be able to see the story.
So go
online.
watch it today.
Yeah.
You haven't seen it.
We worked hard on that.
So, you can see that 2 minutes of action without some of the stuff around it. So again, thank you, David, for staying with that. And we're going to wrap up the show real quick with you just mentioning and giving some dates and some information about the Denham Springs Fair, which is returning this spring to South Park.
Yep, coming back to South Park. The Denham Springs Fair is April 1st through 4th. Tony Gyro, who's the organizer, who started the Denham Springs Fair 5 or 6 years ago, he announced it last week that he had finally got the permits that he needed to put it on. So it is going to be up. He hasn't, as of this time, he hasn't put out the flyer with the details of what's going on, other than there's a few Bag of Donuts, their New Orleans cover band. I've seen them at a few things I've covered. They're an entertaining bunch. They'll be there on that Friday. That is the 2nd, I believe. And then Parish County Line, their local band, a couple of actual Denham Springs natives there. They'll be performing the next day on Saturday, April the 3rd. Then there will be photo opportunities with the Easter Bunny and that sort of thing. And, a fair, there will be rides, there will be concession stands. So I think this year's fair will actually be a pretty big draw, considering that, last year's was canceled and, people are going to be wanting to do something with the family outside of their home. So I actually think this year's fair will draw some pretty decent crowds.
You think there's going to be funnel cakes?
I hope so.
Oh, yeah. Got to have that funnel cake. So anyway, David, thank you. Rob, thank you. I want you guys to go ahead and give yourself an outro, a little outroduction, if you will.
Sure. This is Rob DeArmond. I'm sports editor with Livingston Parish News.
And this is David Gray, lifestyle editor with Livingston Parish News.
Probably should have gave you all.
It was like it just freeze for a second. But
who's going to go first?
Who's going first? Rock, paper, scissors, man.
And again, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us for the Livingston Parish News group therapy session as we talk about what's going on in Livingston Parish. I want to remind folks we are doing a series of podcasts with folks from Denham Springs High School and the school board talking about that upcoming millage renewal. We also have, an edition that I screened just before I sat down with these guys with Mayor Gerard Landry, doing once a month with him. So we'd appreciate you guys checking that out at www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast, or of course you can see them on Facebook. We are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. We're also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. As mentioned, it's /podcast to get these shows and all the other shows that we record. We appreciate you joining us this week, and we will see you next time.